Hey, Mike. Congrats. I know this was an important one for you. You kind of expressed your mentality a little bit in the cage. Can you just expand on that and kind of the battle to not maybe overexert yourself when it comes to the finish and focus on the win tonight?
Yeah, man, I had a few moments in there where I was like, all right, let's go. Like, beat this dude's ass. Put it on him. I'm like, look, man, I felt like I was winning pretty much the whole fight. You know, I felt like I was in control of the fight for the most part. I thought it was 30-27. You know, he had some moments maybe at the beginning of the second where, you know, he landed a couple shots, nothing that really hurt or anything, but I'm like, okay, that optics definitely didn't look good. But I felt like I was picking him apart. I felt like I was getting the better shots. I felt like those low kicks were landing. I kicked him in the head a bunch of times. I was stabbing him in the body. You know, I landed some good solid right hands and left hooks to him. I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm doing the right things. I think I'm picking this guy apart and winning. Like, I'm en route to win a decision. If anything, the responsibility lies on him to take risks, not me. Like, I'm winning right now. I don't need to take those massive risks. I expected him to take a little bit more risks, especially near the end. Like, he kind of came out in the second a little bit hotter than he did in the first, and then he came out a little hotter in the third than he did in the second, which is exactly what I expected because I felt like I won the other rounds. I'm like, okay, we're going into the third. Be ready for this guy to come out and try and brawl or look for a big takedown or just like try to make it messy to try and get me out of there. So I was kind of expecting him to put the pressure on a little bit more or take some bigger risks. And I was like, okay, in those exchanges, that's where I'm going to hurt this guy or really pull ahead. Until then, I'm just going to keep picking at him and take my time. But he's a vet, dude. Like I said at the beginning of this, you know, at the beginning of this week, the dude's got 7 wins in the UFC. You don't get 7 wins in the UFC by accident. You get 7 wins in the UFC because you know what you're doing. And he's fought some of the best guys in the world. You know, he had a scrap with Duplessis, you know, world champion at middleweight. The guy fought up at middleweight. I think he beat Ryan Spann and like, you know, some other solid guys earlier in their career. Like, I think he beat Brendan Allen like early in his career. I think he's beaten some really good guys. Obviously, when Brendan Allen was like much younger, but I'm like, dude, this guy's beaten some really good guys. This isn't some guy to not respect. I mean, everybody in the UFC is good at this point, but I felt like I had to check the ego a little bit in this one, where I pride myself on putting guys away, and I'm like, look. If you get the stoppage, that's amazing. If you get 15 minutes of cage time and win by decision, that's amazing. Like, just get back on the winning track, and then we can focus on getting, you know, we can focus on the rest later. But I was really happy I genuinely was happy to get those 15 minutes of experience and feel that cage time. Like, dude, my first 4 fights with the UFC, including Contender Series, were less than 15 minutes total, right? It was like 14 minutes and 30 seconds or something. And then my next fight, my last fight in Toronto, was longer than that, but still wasn't 15 minutes total. So this fight was like 1/3 of my UFC experience, right? So I think long term that's gonna help me, just having a little more information and data in the cage and being like, all right, man, you did 3 5s and like, it wasn't easy, but like I wasn't like tired or anything like that at the end of the fight. I felt in control of myself and I felt in control of the fight, and I felt like I was picking them apart and getting the better of pretty much everything.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my follow-ups. Like, I know that 100% finish rate is nice and stuff, but to get that experience of 15 minutes in a winning fashion, that must be important for your growth.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if I hadn't put that pressure on myself to be like, I have to finish everybody, I would have won a decision in January, and I'd be ranked right now. But, you know, I made a couple bad decisions there at the end of the fight and my last fight, and then, you know, that kind of just showed a bunch of other stuff. We really picked my game apart and saw like, what can I do to level up and be a better fighter, and you know, I didn't show all of it in this fight, but I think I did show a good job of being patient and doing what needs to be done to get a win.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like this win kind of puts you back in the position you were going into the Neil Magny fight? Would you like a kind of opponent in that same range to reprove yourself and show what you can do in a second chance at someone like that?
Yeah, I think this shows I'm one of the best guys in the world, you know. again, I got to go back and watch this fight. Sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what happened when you're in there. You know, I felt like I was really present in the fight, but at the same time, I'm like, you know, sometimes I had a fight before Contender Series, and this guy came out really hot for like the first minute. And I was like, oh, okay, he landed a couple shots. Oh, that wasn't too worrisome, whatever. And then I ended up like dropping him and submitting him in like 30 seconds or whatever. But he came out and like sprinted at me, and in my head, I was like, oh no, I'm good. And then Andre Feely cornered me for that one, and he was like, bro, it took you long enough to start fighting. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it wasn't that bad. And then we went back to the room, and I was like, oh shit, he was coming at me like that. I was like, I didn't realize it was that bad. He's like, yeah, dude, that's why I was saying start fighting. It's like, stop fainting and start fighting. But you know, I got the stoppage quickly in that one too. But sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what happens in there. So we'll go back to study the film after and see what needs to be improved upon. But you know, yeah, I feel like I'm one of the best guys in the world, and I don't know what's next as far as like a fight for me. I sure hope it's in Canada, you know, next year, 2025. If we could come up to Halifax, Nova Scotia, that would be unbelievable. I lived there for 5 or 6 years, and that's one of my favorite cities in the world. I absolutely love that city. So, you know, if I could just keep being that staple Canadian on these main cards, that would be awesome.
I know some people who would love that Halifax idea. This might go into you need to go back and watch it, but during Media Day, you talked about the Magny fight and how what you saw there might have been a symptom of a larger issue. So do you feel that issue has been corrected through, you know, your last training camp, or is this something where you got to kind of stay on top of it as things move forward?
I mean, you have to stay on top of everything, man. Like, you know, it's the old, like, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So you got to stay on top of everything in this sport, but at least just being aware of what needs to be improved is important. You know, we didn't get to that grindy place in this fight as much. You know, it's just a little more of a chess match, Thai boxing style fight, which is cool to have one of those, man. That's the first time I've had one of those in my MMA career, of just like, you know, hands up, tuck the chin, and like play that strategic game of like, you go, no, I'll go, no, like the cat and mouse, and play behind your guard, and you know, he was a good dance partner for that in that way, and yeah, man, happy I got the win.
This has been a much better night for Canada, as we just saw with Jasmine just winning.
Did she just win?
Yeah.
What happened? Submission. Let's go, baby! Fuck yeah! What did she catch her with?
We're waiting for the replay. I was talking to you.
Choke? Do you know what kind of choke? Yeah, let's what? One second, I want to see this. I can't see this.
Can you see?
No, I can't see it. Darce choke. She's sick with that.
There we go. So much better night for Canada.
Thank you for
and
that.
I don't know if you were able to, but did you get to see, while you were warming up in the back, get to see any of the other guys who were going?
I started watching the Siri fight, and then when he had the anaconda, I started getting too worked up, and he escaped that, and I finished the round, and I was like, oh, dude, I'm like getting adrenaline in the back. I was like, okay, turn around, stop watching the fights, and like peek over every once in a while. But like, Siri's my boy too, right? Siri and Jazz are like, you know, they're like my UFC Canadian fight siblings, right? Like, I love these guys. I've known Siri since he like pretty much first stepped into a gym. Like, he was just like a kid at, you know, a gym in Burlington, BTC, where you know, I was working for a little bit. And to see him just climb the ranks of regional and you know, start getting really good, I'm like, dude, this guy's got some serious promise to him. And then to go from like, man, he could go somewhere someday, to just be like, oh no, that guy's legitimate UFC fighter, is awesome to see. And same with Jazz. I think the first time Jasmine ever rolled was with me on her boyfriend, who's our wrestling coach's living room floor one time. Like, they started dating, and she's like, oh, you do MMA? And I was like, oh yeah, I've moved to California, I've fought in Bellator, like, I want to fight in the UFC. She's like, oh, that sounds cool, like, let's do some jiu-jitsu. I was like, what? This is carpet. She's like, yeah, let's try grappling. So we grappled, like, and she was like kind of a natural. I'm like, oh shit, she's actually like quite good. And it's like one of those funny things where it's like, oh, you want to go to the UFC? I was like, yeah, you know, I've dedicated my whole life to it. And she's like, oh yeah, cool, I'll do that too. I'm like, you can't just do that. And then she just beat me to the UFC by 3 weeks.
Well, congrats on all three of you. All three of you came away with the wins tonight. Last one for me. I don't know if you talked to anyone back home. It's been pretty warm in Southern Ontario this week. So are you looking forward to getting back there?
Yeah, man. I looking forward to taking some time to just recover and rest. And you know, it weighs on you, man. I've tried not to. You try not to put too much pressure on yourself, but at the same time, like, Dude, winning's important here, man. It's like, you can say like, oh, I went out there and scrapped and gave it everything I got, and I got in a brawl, and everybody loved, I was an exciting fighter. But like, dude, if you're not winning, people don't care. Like, you're going to be dusting off the old resume. I'm like, I have to win fights. Like, I have to get back on the winning track. I cannot drop 2 in a row here. That's going to kill everything, and I'm going to really have to start from the beginning. So, I'm excited to take some time. I owe my wife a honeymoon. I got married in August, and I texted my manager before we got married, and I was like, hey, man, I'm getting married this weekend. I'm going to shut my phone off. I won't check it till Monday. He goes, all good, no worries. I'll let the matchmakers know if we hear anything. And then I turned my phone on Monday after the wedding, like the day after we got married, and checked my phone, and the first text I saw was Trevin Giles, November 2nd, Edmonton, Alberta. I'm like, God damn, I'm glad I turned my phone on. Otherwise, we would have been saying like our vows, and I would have been like moving my head and like thinking like, okay, should I be taking this guy down? Should I be striking with him? But yeah, man, so I'm down for a couple weeks of chilling. I might go down to LA and see my brother. He plays down there for Ontario Reign and the LA Kings, so I might go see him, or might take my wife on a honeymoon.
Enjoy it. Congrats.
Thank you, brother.
Hi, Mike. You talked about pressure. Fighting in front of the Canadian fans, you seem to really enjoy that fact. And for other fighters, that might add some extra pressure, but it doesn't seem to for you.
I feel like I definitely did a better job of it this time. I think maybe last time was the only time that I maybe thought about it a little too much, where it was like it took from like my journey and just thought about it more as like the, how I have to fight for these guys and I have to continue to get finishes. Like, again, at heart, I'm a finisher. So somebody makes one big mistake, the fight's over, and I will put people away. But my opponent fought a good fight tonight and wasn't able to put him away. But yeah, dude, I mean, I do feel that pressure in certain ways. But I think honestly, like, I just have gotten back to like when you just are yourself and fight the way that you fight and act the way that you normally act. Like, the Canadian fans are behind you anyway, so you don't need to like have anything added. But dude, yeah, I love representing our country, man. Like, I lived in California for I don't know, 7 years, something like that. I lived in California for 7 years, and I loved it down there. I love my Team Alpha Male guys. Miss you guys, love you guys. Sacramento was a great place for me to live with that team, but I was homesick the entire time. Like, I had big Canadian flag on my wall in my room, and dude, like, I dreamed about walking out to cages with a Canadian flag on my back, and like the way I see it is I walk out to the cage with my flag on my back, my name on my leg, and my team's in my my team's behind me, and that's who I represent. I represent my family. I represent my family. I represent my country, and I represent my teams. And I'm so proud to carry those people on my back. And so it's hard to not feel the pressure sometimes of like, I really want to shine for these guys, and I want to give the Canadian fans somebody to get behind. But at the same time, it's like step number one is getting wins, right? So that's the most important thing.
The game plan tonight, you seemed pretty happy to just stand and bang with Trevin, which kind of plays into his style a little bit rather than maybe utilising your grappling a little bit more. Was there any meaning or substance behind that? Did you want to go out and beat him at his own game?
No, I mean, I'm a high-level striker too. I've just mostly gotten submissions in the UFC. Like, I think, I don't think people know that my striking's like that. Maybe I do have a high-level Thai boxing background. I grew up with Cruella and Helmegen. It's been 15 years since I met this man, and he's guided me along this journey. And I've been blessed to work with a lot of other great boxing coaches and striking coaches throughout the years. And yeah, I mean, I've said I think I'm one of the most well-rounded guys in this game, and I truly believe that. So, if there had come a time in the fight where I got really hurt or I felt like I was losing on the feet, like obviously there were some exchanges where, he got the better of like a little bit of the exchange, but I never felt hurt in the fight. I was like, look, man, take your time. It's 15 minutes. You don't need to win every second of every fight. And like, oh man, I faced a little adversity. I need to like completely change how this fight looks. It's like, dude, you're in a fight. This guy's gonna jab you in the face. You're in a fight. You're gonna get bumps and bruises. Like, it's gonna happen. Make sure you're finding the big opportunities and you're picking this guy apart. And if you're feeling like you're getting the better of him on the feet, then why look for the takedown? I didn't feel like I was in any imminent danger.
You're wanting to set yourself mini goals, obviously, as you progress through your career. And I think, one that's pretty achievable with another win or two would be to headline a fight night card here in Canada, maybe to get a chance to do it in Halifax, like you said already. I'm sure that would be a dream come true.
Dude, that would be an absolute dream come true.
Thank you. Good luck. Or well done tonight. I mean,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.